This video doesn't pick up off of any of the previous videos. This is a book review that I'm working on, that I'm trying to get book reviews published so I can kind of measure where I am as a graduate student, see where my strengths and weaknesses are, how my work will be received, and can I produce work at a level with colleagues right now. You have to, measure what you're doing. Just sitting on a video talking, it's not what I'm, that's not my goal in life. I'm not trying to be a I don't know, web personality. This project has a point. The book that I am doing a review for, I just completed one review. That's why I'm switching back. And I can probably talk about both of them because they both have similar aspects in the methodology that was used. But particularly I want to talk about the rise of American democracy. This is Sean Wilentz, W-I-L-E-N-T-Z. These are the things that we have to know, because remember, let's go back to the other videos. If you don't have the words for something, you don't see it. And our issue is not just our knowing our history. There's a lot of people that know our history. Not black history, history. American. If you're an American, you need to know American history. If you are a Bolton, then you need to know Bolton history. If you are a black person, you need to know black people's history. But you have to understand that all of it is the same continuum of history. Not black history is over here, women's history is over here. No, because that's to say that there is a mainstream history. And that's not right. History is history. It's all connected. But Mr. Wilentz in The Rise of American Democracy. Now, I don't have this book in front of me, so I'm going to kind of go off the dome. And I have to do a presentation on this book Monday. Yeah, Monday. Which I think I'm ready, so I don't have a problem with it. But what is amazing about this book is it goes back to the perspective video that I did earlier, as to where it's talking about the perspective of the oppressor may not be malicious. And you can look at that video to find out why. I don't want to cut in my 10 minutes doing the video about the other video. But in this particular book, it's talking about democracy, obviously, rise of American democracy. In the first 5 chapters, it's talking about some type of democracy. Democracy during the Jeffersonian era, democracy during the Jacksonian era, democracy during Lincoln, the formation of democracy, the papers of democracy, and all it's talking about is a republic. Okay? But they have a real, well, Wilentz has a real view and a real perspective. But because we don't have these words, we can't see why that is. But now when we read these things, we actually get the words. When in this book, he's talking about how he is a Jacksonianite. President Jackson was looked at as one of the first men of leadership, white men of leadership, that did not come out of the aristocracy. So basically, it's the difference between rich and wealthy. And the Jacksonian group elevated Jackson because he was the guy to level the playing field for white people who could participate. There's an old saying, a third of the people supported the revolution, a third of the people didn't support the revolution, and a third of the people trying to put food on the table. Well, the people who can afford to conjecture and go back and forth over laws for months at a time, they have to have a degree of wealth to be able to do that. So in Wilentz, the real focus, the central point is on Jackson. It actually ends with a section on slavery, but we'll get to that probably in another video. Very similar to a book I just, Balin. Yeah, Balin's book. Bernard Balin did a book very similar, and Balin had a portion on slavery that was just, oh my goodness. Balin's book is the ideological origins of the American Revolution. And it was just surprising, the perspectives and how they can be so different and how people can excuse just about anything. But in this leveling of the playing field between the Jacksonian people and the aristocracy, they're looking at the fight that they're engaged in, not at the people who are not included. And so when they're speaking of democracy, they're talking about democracy amongst their peers, which is all that counts to them. So when you have a minority, which is wealthy white men, but what the Jacksonians did was removed the requisite of landowning. Now, if you didn't own land, that also limits your access, because the land is usually indicative to having money. Money has transportation, time, and all of that. Because if you're voting, you're really not part of the formation of the government. You're just kind of voting and picking sides, which is what we do today. We have nothing to do with goes. That's why we have an oligarchy now. That's why we have a republic to which we stand, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Don't forget, the word democracy is not in the Constitution. It's not in the Constitution of any of the 50 states. So what they were actually, at best, if it's not an oligarchy, at best, they were creating a small group, which is a republic. But in this book, the first 5 chapters is talking about democracy. But here is where it's not malice. If you live and exist in this circle, that's where the democracy is. And if you never venture outside this circle, you think of this place as being a democracy. Again, going back to the oppressor and non-oppressor linear histories. One will never see history the same way as the other one, because one has the other one in their vantage point and the other one doesn't. The oppressor is looking forward. He does not see the oppressed, so they are completely not included. The oppressor will always be in the oppressed history because he is in front of them. So that's what we have to remember, okay? So again, Sean Wilentz, Wilentz, The Rise of American Democracy.